Hi guys, welcome to Jewel for Real. Today's video is going to be about my miscarriage. Ironically, I'm talking about my miscarriage when I'm pregnant again with baby number 5. I just wanted to start off by saying to all you guys out there that don't feel discouraged, that you might feel discouraged, you might feel despaired. Will I ever be able to get pregnant again? Is this all the kids that I'm going to have? I can assure you, because I was through a difficult miscarriage. That was after my first child, before I had any of the other kids, that life continues. Even though it's sad that you lost a baby, but life continues, and you have to just keep on keeping on, and that it can happen for you. Just don't lose hope in that you can have more kids. After that miscarriage, I wasn't sure. I honestly was like, am I only gonna have one kid? Am I gonna keep having miscarriages? I was in a really dark, despaired place. Now I have 3 other kids after the miscarriage, and I'm pregnant with the 4th, well, the 4th after the miscarriage, but my 5th child. Just don't lose hope in that. But today I'm actually going to be doing a 2-part series because I don't want the videos getting too long. But I wanted to have a video about my miscarriage, what I went through, the day it happened, and just the feelings while I was going through it. But I also wanted to do a second part of a video that explained what I went through afterwards. There was a lot of emotions, feelings, things that I wanted to share with you that I went through after the miscarriage and after the loss of that baby. Be on the lookout for, this is part 1, be on the lookout for part 2. I wanted to at least get the first part out during October Awareness Month. So my miscarriage actually happened 8 years ago now. It's hard to believe. It's hard to believe it's been that long. It was that long ago. It was before my second child, and my second child's turning 8. Part 2 will be coming out after, obviously, part 1. And if in fact it is out by now, it will be right here. Just click on it or listen to this and then click on that. The link for part 2, if it's available, will also be below. Well, for my miscarriage, I was actually 11 weeks pregnant. I was pretty far into my first trimester. I was actually almost into my second trimester, which made it pretty difficult because I did announce to every single person that I was pregnant. I usually waited until I was like about 8 weeks pregnant to announce to everybody, and I did that, and then I got past 8 weeks and I just told everybody. I announced to both sets of family. I had a blog at that time because blogs were more of a thing than vlogs. And I had a blog that I announced to everybody. And a lot of people, friends and family checked out my blog and knew I was pregnant. So that made it especially difficult that I had announced to everybody, and then I had to tell everybody that there's no longer a baby. That was one of the most difficult things of what I went through. But let me get into the day of the miscarriage. I had a great pregnancy, so to speak, like I thought I did. I didn't have many symptoms, but now looking back, it probably was because it wasn't a very viable pregnancy, but I was starting to show. I actually have pictures of me starting to show, which I'll show you in a minute. I actually had my cousin Stacy take pictures when she lived here before she moved away for a while. Now she's back again. But she was a photographer and took pictures of me and my family and Talia, and then pictures of my belly, even though I wasn't really showing that much at that time. So I was showing, it seemed, I was telling everybody, but at 11 weeks pregnant, the day I miscarried, I went to a party at my friend's house. I forget what the party was for, but I went to my friend Allison's. Everything was great. I was talking to everybody, laughing with everybody, feeling fine. We just had a great party. I was talking about the pregnancy. People were asking me questions about my pregnancy. Just everything was hunky-dory great. Well, after the party, we got into the car and we were on my way to my parents' house because it was a Sunday. And if you watch our vlog, Family for Real, which if you don't know, we have a vlog called Family for Real, go check it out. In our vlogs, you'll notice that we always have Sunday dinners with my family, like 98% of the time. And so we were on our way to Sunday family dinner and headed down there. And I just remember it so vividly because I guess it was a very big trauma in my life. As we were on our way there, we were going down a road that was a big hill. It was like a big long downward hill. And as I went down it, when we got to the bottom, I just felt a gush down there. And I knew something wasn't right away. I knew it felt like blood. Because if you're a woman, you know what blood down there feels like. And so I just started panicking. I looked over at Randy and I'm like, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, I think I'm bleeding. I think I'm bleeding. Oh my word, I think I'm bleeding. I really felt something. And he thought I was maybe overreacting. I'm like, no, I really felt something. Something's not right. And he's like, well, we're almost to your parents, just wait. So I immediately started crying and I immediately knew something just wasn't right. It just did not feel right. And we got to my parents and my mom and my sister were there. I just, like, they could tell something wasn't wrong. Something wasn't the matter with me. And I quickly was telling them what happened. And I ran to the bathroom and quickly pulled down my pants to see, like, what was going on. And tons of blood there. And then that went into the toilet too. And I just, like, was crying and sobbing. I knew that this is not good. My mom and my sister were trying to settle me down, and my mom was trying to assure me that maybe this will be okay. I mean, because she bled with her third baby, Jamie, like my sister Jamie, and she was okay. She ended up to be okay. So, because I'm one of 4 kids, and yeah, I'm the first, and my sister's the third. And with her, she had some bleeding, but when she was describing it to me, it sounded like light bleeding. And I just knew with what I was experiencing, it was not light. It just did not feel right. My mom was like, well, just go to the rocking chair and put up your feet and everything will be okay. Just, like, rest. At that point, I called the midwife because with all my kids, I see a midwife. I go to a birth center and deliver there and have a midwife. So I called the midwife line. The midwife called me back fairly quickly, and she was asking me questions about what I was experiencing, and I, told her what happened. She's like, I think it sounds like you're having a miscarriage, but you won't know until you go to the ER. You have to go to the ER and get an ultrasound to confirm that that's what's happening. I'm sorry you're going through this. But maybe things are okay, but you don't know until you go to the ER. After I got off the phone with her, I went to the ER with Randy and my sister Jamie. My sister Jamie came along. My mom stayed home with my daughter Talia. I just was a mess. I was sobbing and crying the whole time. Because as a mom, you're attached to that baby the second you know you're pregnant. Maybe, I don't know how it is for a dad. Maybe a dad, it takes until they see the baby to get attached. But for a mom who has the baby in their belly, as soon as they find out that they're pregnant, they're attached to that baby. And so I was already attached, and the thought of losing that child, was more than I could fathom. So it was hard waiting in that waiting room because obviously, at an ER you wait a while. So that was pretty hard. And then they got me, by the time I got back to the room, and then they took me back to the ultrasound. I looked at they did the ultrasound, and they had the screen turned to them. Most of the time I couldn't really see anything, and she wasn't really saying anything. And I just knew by the look on her face, I was just trying to read her face or her facial expressions. And I just knew it didn't seem like it was going to be good news. I was already jumping the gun. I was already thinking the worst. And I just remember so much, like the feelings and stuff that went along with it. The doctor came back to me with Jamie and Randy beside me and told me, I'm sorry, but there's no heartbeat. The baby's gone. I just was sobbing over top of what the doctor was saying, but I still heard those words, and he just said that the baby stopped growing when it was 8 weeks along, that it didn't measure more than 8 weeks, that it probably had been deceased for a few weeks, but my body took up until now to recognize that. That was just so hard for me to hear. My sister Jamie was sobbing too. Randy wasn't sobbing, but because that's not, usually what husbands do, but he just looked devastated for me. I'm sure he was devastated for himself too, but like mainly for me. Wow, I didn't think I'd get emotional, talking about this because it was 8 years ago, but yeah, it was just hard. I mean, my sister was, sobbing and hugging me and saying, I'm sorry, Julie. I'm sorry you're going through this. And it was so hard. It was a hard time in my life. Well, once they told me that, they told me my options. My options were to either go home and continue bleeding and hope that I end up exposing of the baby myself, because that's the best and most natural way, or to get a DNC. And a DNC is where they basically, kind of put you under and you get a surgical procedure where they scrape everything out. Well, that sounded a little bit scary to me, so I opted out of that at first, and I went home to bleed and hopefully expose of the baby. But as the days went on, I just continued bleeding, and it wasn't just normal bleeding, it was heavy bleeding. I just was like, more as the days went on, I just became more and more in a funk, I would say. I wasn't depressed, but I was definitely in a funk, and I was like, I just want to move on from this. If the baby is already gone, I just want to move on from this. And they said that this could happen for weeks sometimes with people, and I just didn't know how long it was going to go on for me. And I just got discouraged, and I just couldn't keep on keeping on. So I decided then, when I was probably like 4 days out from knowing I miscarried and continuing having heavy bleeding, but nothing stopping and not exposing. So I just ended up opting to get the DNC then, and I scheduled the procedure. I went to the hospital that morning and got put under, and I got the DNC, and when I woke up, I just remember them saying, it's finished, it's done, everything's out. The bleeding should taper off now. And I just remember feeling totally mixed emotions about it. One, I was relieved that, okay, I can move past this now. I can, let my body recover and try to get pregnant again, because I really desperately did want another baby. Even though I was sad to lose this baby, I really wanted a second baby. But another part of me was feeling, can this happen for me again? Am I going to be continuing to go through a miscarriage? And I felt sad that I didn't know the gender of the baby, or I would never know until I go to heaven one day. And the fact that I just also felt like an emptiness. When they said it's finished, it's done, that's it. My pregnancy's over. What I had known for 11 weeks is gone, just at the blink of an eye. Everything was hunky-dory last week. Everything was great. I was pregnant. I had a healthy pregnancy. Everything was normal. Everything was nice. And now everything's not. It was a very sad time for me. It was hard to get that DNC. And if you can do it naturally, that's the best. But I just didn't know when it would ever happen for me. And after 4 days of very heavy bleeding, I just couldn't deal with it anymore. And so for me, the DNC was good. It allowed me to move on. Everybody's different. Everybody handles things different. Everybody's body's different. Everybody's emotions are different. And for me, after, like I said, 4 days of heavy bleeding, I just couldn't cope anymore, and I needed to move on as best as you could move on with my new normal. That's it for today, guys. That was my story of losing the baby, but I'm going to have a part 2 where I explain my feelings afterwards, what I went through, what's good to talk to people in a miscarriage, what's not good, how you cope. I made a poem for my baby, and I'm going to share my poem, the emotions that went into that poem, just everything about, afterwards that I went through. So stay tuned for part 2. If this video was helpful for you, please give it a thumbs up. If you're new to this channel, please hit subscribe because I plan on trying to put out videos weekly. Also, comment below on what you went through with your miscarriage. Obviously, I would love to hear what you went through in your miscarriage, and because there's lots of ladies that go through miscarriage out there, and it's a silent trauma that most people don't talk about. I would love to hear and just have us join together, talk with one another. And if you just went through a miscarriage, I'm so sorry. And I'm sorry for you, and if that's why you're tuning in, I'm sorry, and my heart goes out to you because I know what it was like. And I'm praying for you if that's what you went through. Until next time, guys, fly high and dream big.